94.3 The Dude is very grateful to our men and women in uniform. We're proud to recognize local members of our military by turning the spotlight on them right now in our Soldier Salute.
I'm your host, United States Marine Corps veteran Ethan Stitch Gardner, and on today's Soldier Salute, I have co-founder of Hidden Wounds and recipient of the Purple Heart, U.S. Marine Corps veteran Steve Diaz. Steve, thanks so much for being on with me today. Thanks for your service. Purple Heart recipient, fellow United States Marine Corps veteran. Awesome to have you on. Tell us a little bit about your story and the reasons for joining the illustrious United States Marine Corps.
Ethan, I appreciate you having me on and letting me share my story. So I immigrated here from Mexico in the 90s. My dad came to start a church in Colombia for Hispanics. So I grew up here in Colombia. Like many veterans of my age, grew up during 9/11. That impacted me greatly as an immigrant, knowing that a country that had given so much to my family, that gave my family the freedom and the wanting of leaving everything that they had behind, leaving their families, leaving their possible careers, to come to the United States with their 2 kids at the time and their suitcases and the clothes on their backs to help other people. This country gave them that opportunity, and to become successful in what they're doing, I took it personal. I didn't lose anybody in 9/11, but I remember watching it, and everyone has their story, right, of 9/11, of they know where they were at, what happened. For me, and it'll be something that I'm proud to tell my kids and my grandkids, that impacted me and that motivated me to, I need to do something. Getting closer to graduating high school, a lot of my friends were applying for scholarships and figuring out what schools they wanted to go to. I didn't do that. I didn't have a plan on what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to join the military, so I had a group of about 4 or 5 guys who we all kind of made a pact of saying, hey, let's all join the military together. We start going to all the military branches right here on Assembly Street, and we start asking them, you know, who's the toughest. And so they all start go talk to the Marines. So we go to the Air Force, hey, who's the toughest? You know, go talk to the Marines. Go to the Army, and they, are you trying to join? We'll take you. I was like, no, that's fine. So we go to the Marines. They play this mind game of, no, we don't need you. You probably wouldn't make it anyway. And it worked. But by the time that I signed up to join, no one else joined with me. They all backed out. So I was the only one, and I said, well, I'm not backing out. There's a reason in my heart that I have this calling of this is why I want to join. Went to boot camp, Marine combat training that you do. I wanted to travel the world. I want to take that opportunity to travel and let the military, and that's what I tell people now they're joining, take advantage of everything the military has to offer. You know, we're from South Carolina. The next closest Marine Corps base is, we have Parris Island, but it's Camp Lejeune. And so a lot of people will go to Camp Lejeune because they're close to home. So if they want to, on the weekends, want to go home, it's only, 2-hour, 3-hour drive. I've seen North Carolina. I have the opportunity to travel the world. I took advantage of that. There was a spot that opened up in Okinawa, Japan with an engineer unit out there, and I took it.
Steve, after all your time in the military, you came home to South Carolina and you started a nonprofit called Hidden Wounds. Tell us all about it.
So when I came back, transitioning obviously is difficult for many veterans. I was having some difficult time transitioning and went to go to school, and so I took advantage of that. And while I was in school, I had a veteran, a Marine Corps buddy of mine who was living with me at the time. I saw him go through a struggle, a downward spiral of substance abuse, not being able to hold down a job, having issues keeping relationships, and I saw it firsthand. And my way of dealing with it was not dealing with it. I still had the mindset of you keep your issues and your problems to yourself. You don't ask other guys what's going on with them, and you don't share with them what's going on. That was the mindset that was given to me. I'm not using this as an excuse, but this was the mindset that was given to me by the military, was you suck it up and you keep moving. I would tell my girlfriend at the time, if he brings up anything like this, or if he starts to drink and he wants to talk about it, you just ignore it, change the subject, don't let him talk about it. I had another veteran at the time. He knew that I had served and had gotten injured and came back and had been in combat, all that stuff. He asked me, hey, Steven, you were in combat, right? And you saw a bunch of stuff, and how are you sleeping at night? And of course I had issues, but I didn't want him to know that. So I told him, I'm fine, dude. How do you do in crowds? Or do you have issues with A, B, and C? And I said, I'm fine, man. I don't have any issues issues. I don't know what you're talking about. Knowing that I did, at that time, I had created my own coping mechanisms. However, I did have those issues. I was like, look, man, go to the VA, go to the vet center, go do all this stuff. They'll help you out. Completely disregarded what he had to say. And later I found out that he had taken his life and he had asked me for help. That was a gut shot. Then after that, my buddy Josh Blankenship took his life. And this was the guy that was living with me. When a veteran takes their life, or not even veterans, because we have to remember that PTSD just doesn't affect the military community. When somebody takes their life, the questions afterwards are, I didn't know. But then you start to research and think about things that, well, they were acting kind of funny, or they were doing this, or they were having trouble with work, or they would disappear and wouldn't come back and wouldn't say what was going on. People see these red flags, but because we don't know how to deal with it, we just kind of brush it off. And that's exactly what I did. Just brushed it off. After that, I had a total of 6 friends of mine who took their life, which was more than I lost in Iraq. 2 of them, for sure, I know I could have done something about it. And so we partnered with the family of the first guy I told you about, had taken his life. We wanted to know what was going on. Let's trace back the steps of what happened, where and when, and what could we do differently? Because at that time, we're talking 2009. At that time, the statistic was 18 veterans a day were taking their life. We didn't want our service member, my buddy Josh, we didn't want them to just be a statistic. Let's do something about it. At that time, the VA was just not equipped to deal with us and that issue. You could even probably say they just weren't equipped, period, to deal with mental health and PTSD. And then the community doesn't know anything about it. There are providers in the community that can help. Why aren't veterans going to these providers? Why aren't we talking to the veteran community about what is going on? And why aren't veterans reaching out for help? Why aren't family members, when they see the red flags, aren't doing anything about it? So these are the questions that we wanted to answer. We figured that the best thing that we could do is create a partnership between providers, veterans, the family members, and government officials to do something about it at a grassroots level. Because we know, and we learned this the hard way, you cannot fight the VA. There's some good people at the VA. We could spend hours bashing the VA, but it gets you nowhere. You have to work with them, and there's ways to do that. It's a political way of doing it, but that's just what you have to get done. And so what we did was created a grassroots effort into helping veterans one at a time, but also providing services to family members, because family members often deal with some of the same issues that we do. We just shared a great article. It talks about the families of veterans who are taking their life. There's finally a database that's being created of the suicides that are completed by family members, because it's something. I know CNN did a great piece on it called The Uncounted. If you want to Google that, CNN Uncounted. It's about stories of family members who, what we call secondary PTSD, about some of the symptoms that we have that we then pass on to our family members. We wanted to make a difference, even if it was just a small dent. If we can just help one person, we knew we would accomplish our mission. What is it? What do you do? So what we do is we connect veterans with providers in the community and do it in a way where it's not a cookie cutter system, because we know that what helps you might not help me, and vice versa. We also want to make sure that they are getting treatments at the VA. So while they're getting treatment outside of the VA, we make sure everything that they need to get done paper-wise or red tape-wise is getting done at the VA. So we have people who are well-versed in how to handle the VA to also help them. And we handhold them through this process, because we know that when you get out, the last thing you want to do is go deal with the VA. And civilians will ask, well, what's the VA like? And I tell them, what's the DMV like? And they laugh and get upset, and they say, well, that's long lines and bureaucracy, and I hate the DMV, I don't want to go. Well, that's the same mindset we have with the VA, but you have to do it. It's a service that's there for you, and it might not be the best some days, but you just go. I mean, it's there for you. We can help you navigate that system, because it can be difficult. There's ways of having other organizations to help you out when you get out. Something that a lot of veterans don't know, so I'm dropping a knowledge bomb right now, is that when you get out, you have 5 years of complete complete care, head to toe, at the VA. You don't have to be service connected. It's not until maybe like year 7, okay, fine, I'll go to the VA. Well, you only had a foot injury, so you're only rated for your foot, so you can only get, you got a headache or a head injury or your arm hurts, sorry. Now you get treated just like a normal hospital, where you probably could have got that dealt with 5 years ago. We know how to talk to veterans. Sometimes they just need that slap in the back of the head. Hey, go get it done. And that's how we respond. We know how to talk to veterans because we speak the same language. We also go out into the community and teach providers how to deal and speak to veterans, because you have a lot of good people in the community that have different ways of teaching people how to cope, or whatever it is, the type of medicine that they practice in the mental health field. They don't know how to get their message or their work out to the veteran community, and that's where we come in, create that bridge to help them. Hey, here's these vets, they might be able to use their services, and we tell veterans, hey, go try this out. It might not work for you, but you're not going to know unless you try it. And so we also have partners like the Big Red Barn that have a lot of different services that they provide there. I'm not trying to recreate the wheel. If there are other organizations that are doing great work and our end goal is to help the veteran, then that's what we're going to do. And so we're a fairly small organization, all volunteer run. We are partnered with another organization called Project Josiah Restoration Ministry, and what we do with them is non-clinical group therapy, because we know when you can get a group of veterans together and they talk, you're in therapy, believe it or not. That's what you're doing. And partnering with these different groups, our mission is to lower the rate of suicides. The government says we're at over 20. You might hear or see the number 22 a lot. Personally, to me, that's a gimmicky number. I get a lot of negative feedback on that. But look, that number is only, at the time, that was a number that came from 2012, a study that was done. That was a number provided by VAs that volunteered their numbers. I didn't count National Guard. It didn't count homeless veterans. It didn't count if you came home separated from the military, you had your DD-214 and you're celebrating, and then you took your life next week. You never went into the VA to get registered. You didn't count. That number 22 to me is low. I would dare to say that it's over 100. And that number majority makes up of Vietnam veterans. So if that number, a majority of it is Vietnam, think about what it's going to be 10, 15 years down the road. Because then that means if they're having issues, which they are, Vietnam was insane, imagine what it is for our generation.
Do you find it upsetting ever that the American people have created hundreds, thousands of nonprofit organizations for the direct benefit of veterans because the VA cannot take care of them as well as they should be able to?
There's a lot of government programs. I mean, since the inception of Hidden Wounds in 2009, we've seen a lot of great things happen through the military. Almost every single branch has their own suicide prevention, mental health program. But, Ethan, you were in the Marine Corps. Put your boots and Kevlar and all that stuff back on. Think about the times that they would make us go through sexual abuse, or, hey, don't go drinking on the weekends and do something stupid, PowerPoints. Not that they're not important. Military sexual trauma is another traumatic thing that happens in our military that is not talked about enough. But think about those PowerPoint presentations and those slides that we would have to sit through. We didn't want to do that. And there was probably really good information and probably people who really cared that were giving these classes, and we just didn't care because it's just not on our forefront of what's important. We say, and we will say it in combat, and it's probably something that'll never go away, and it's just in our esprit de corps, where we'll never leave a man behind. And it's true. That'll be in the history books. But when we come back home, it's screw you. I just want to take care of myself. I got my issues. I don't care what's going on with you. And I'm guilty of that. I'm not pointing fingers. Well, I am, but I'm doing it to myself too. I was guilty of that. And that's why I wanted to be a part of Hidden Wounds. That's why I wanted to be a part of all these other organizations that I help with. That's why I wanted to give back, because I failed my brothers and sisters. I made sure that I was taken care of. I made sure I had a job. And we have to do that, right? I'm not saying just ignore yourself. You got to take care of yourself before you take care of other people. You can't help out another veteran if you're struggling yourself. You can, but you're just not equipped with the right tools. And so that's something else that we do, is we educate people on how to help other people. We have to change that mindset of taking care of our own. A civilian might want to help out as much as they can, but they haven't walked in our shoes. They don't know our language. So that's another thing too. When a veteran, did you go to the VA to get help? Yeah, I did, but the doc, he doesn't understand me. He doesn't get me. And I understand that. And that's another area where we have to change our mindset, as there are people that want to help us, and we have to allow them to help us. And it might take time, but as long as you're doing something, as long as you're learning some type of coping mechanism, PTSD does not go away. I still struggle with it. I still have intrusive thoughts. But am I better now than I was in 2006? Oh, hell yeah. But because I made a conscious effort to want to get better, to want to serve others, to want to be a part of something, because that's the biggest thing that happens when we get out, is that we get upset. We're so eager to get out of the military. Screw this. I'm ready to. I don't want people to tell me what to wear anymore. When I got to go to formation, what to eat. When I got to wake up, exercise, and we get out, and then we're like, damn it, I want to go back in. I don't care.
Happened to me. Happened to me.
I don't care if I have to PT or I'll wake up and it'll take me back.
Yeah.
But what we miss is the camaraderie. What we miss is the structure, because we were so used to it. And you can find that camaraderie and you can find that structure. You just have to look for it. It's not coming to you. I promise that no one's going to knock on your door and say, hey, here's this organization I hear that's doing this. Hey, this is what we're doing, and let's help spread the word. Find these veterans where they're hiding. For the veteran that's listening to this right now, they're in their house with their shades closed, door locked, lights turned off. I've been there. Yeah, I know where you're at. And a lot of us have been there. You're not getting any help that way. If you think that you're doing that because you aren't being a burden to someone else, that's the biggest thing with PTSD. We feel my issues, I don't want to bring it up to anybody, because I don't want them to think I'm crazy. I don't want them to feel like they have to deal with me. I don't want to be a burden. People want to help you. I want to help you, but I can't do that if you're locked up in the house, not wanting to expose yourself to anything. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's something that takes, it took me 7 years to, when I told my wife, I love you, that I actually knew what that meant and knew how it felt. 7 years. We'd already been married. She goes, wait a minute, we were married for 7 years and you didn't tell me, and you told me you'd love me and you didn't mean it. It's like, it's not that I didn't mean it, I just didn't know what it meant, because the military takes your emotions away so that we can do our job, and we're great at our job. It takes some guys maybe longer, takes some guys a little bit sooner than that, but that's, once we're able to do that and learn how to live what I call the new normal, the closer that you can get to learning how to cope with your own challenges. My story is not your story, and vice versa. We have to create our own path to getting better, and if you help other people do that, I promise you it helps.
Steve, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for your service. While serving in the Anbar province of Iraq with the Regimental Combat Team 2, you earned a Purple Heart. Sitting here in the studio with you, I can see the wounds that you suffered from it. Do you mind telling me a little bit about that day?
Yeah, absolutely. I love sharing my story, and I encourage other veterans that have gone through anything like that to we all have a story. Even if we didn't receive a combat action or a Purple Heart, you have a story. Go out and tell your story. People want to know your story. All we know, or all civilians know, and even us before we joined the military, was what we see in the movies. And so, we get a lot of people, and for our civilian counterparts that are out there listening to this, the biggest question that a lot of people dread and why they don't want to share their story. I have requests already for Veterans Day to speak at like 4 or 5 different places. Go out and do that. People want to hear your story. Going back to what people say and that veterans get upset about is when somebody says, hey, how many people did you kill? Or did you kill somebody? And what was that like? And that's what turns a lot of veterans away of wanting to talk about what they did or share their story. And it's obviously not something fun to talk about, but you have to understand that they don't know what war is like. We didn't either before we joined, before we went. War is a terrible thing, is an eye-opening experience. There's a quote that I like to put on my emails that only the dead have seen the end of war. That sounds really smart and deep. I couldn't tell you who said that. I'm not going to take credit for that. Going back to the story, I was picked, almost voluntold, to go on a mission to Iraq with a group of MPs, second MPs out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And they were going on a special mission apart from, big units that go and they're going to do their 7-month rotation or whatever it is. We had a unique mission of route clearance, convoy security, QRF. We didn't know at the time, this was 2004. I had just come back from a training mission with Korean Marines, came back to Japan. We got told, hey, this is what's going on. There was a tsunami or a typhoon or something like that had just hit Sri Lanka or Singapore. I can't remember. This was 2004. Google it. They said, we're going on a humanitarian mission, because I was stationed with 9th Engineer Support Battalion. So that's, part of what we do. We had done humanitarian missions before, and so they said, you're either going to that or you're going to Iraq. And not everyone's getting told this, not everyone's getting asked. We all are telling specific people. So this unit out of Camp Lejeune were seeking 30 Marines from Okinawa, Japan, to join them. They had just come back from their desert training out in Arizona, I believe. We're coming from a jungle mountain warfare to now you're going to desert. We had no experience. We had no training on desert warfare training. And they said us, you're going to Iraq if you want to go, but that's what we want you. We're only telling specific people. So it's, kind of hint, we want you to go. And so 30 of us from the island got together. They let us go home for a week. I think it was kind of a way of them letting us know, hey, you're probably not coming back, because no one else really, got this. We got special leave to go home. We went home for a week. From there, go to Camp Lejeune to meet up with these other Marines who just hated us because we were all different. We weren't infantry guys, but it was all different types of Marines, mostly motor transportation. And so they're like, who are these motor T guys that are about to go on this mission with us? Some of the guys had already done a deployment. We're in our second year in the war in Iraq, OIF2. They were pleased to know that we had a lot of, being a combat engineer unit, we had a lot of experience using all the weapon systems. And then also training with the Korean Marines and a lot of other countries' military. We had experience using their weapons. Does that mean we have combat experience? No, but we had experience in more than just truck driving, which they expected. And I don't blame them. I probably would have thought that too. They were very impressed with our skills. From Camp Lejeune, we went to Iraq. This was January now of 2005. We went to the Anbar province. We were based out of Al-Assad Air Force Base. And from there, that's where we ran all of our missions. And so every day you were either on a QRF mission, Quick Reaction Force, or a convoy security mission, or a route clearance mission. So route clearance is a mission where you would go out and you would patrol and you would look for mines or IEDs, improvised explosive devices, on the roads. That was the main weapon of choice that the insurgents were using. We weren't fighting a national army. We were fighting ghosts. You hear a lot of Vietnam veterans talk about insurgency and guerrilla warfare. That's what we were fighting. And a lot of the times they would use civilians to go out and plant the explosives because they would scare the civilians and say, if you don't go do this, we'll kill you. Or they would pay the civilians to go do it. And we would find this out because we would interrogate and question some of the people, and we'd find out these guys aren't insurgents. These are just farmers or civilians or whatever. That's what our mission was for 7 months. I only made it 3 months. My third month there, I was going to a place called Korean Village, which took about almost 2 days to get there. It would take a lot less time if we weren't in 2-ton vehicles with another ton of plated armor that they had put on these vehicles. And funny story with these vehicles is we actually didn't have any up-armored Humvees that were ours or issued to us. We actually were on the base that we were at. I don't know what you'd call it, but the place that we were headquartered in was right next to an Army motor pool. We saw that they had a lot of these up-armored Humvees just sitting on a lot, not doing anything. So just casually, hey, what's tell us about your Humvees over there. Oh, well, the heat is out on them. Well, what do you mean the heat's out on them? It doesn't blow out heat, and it gets cold. It's cold in Iraq. It's a desert. At nighttime, it's freezing. I mean, you'd be 140 degrees during the daytime, and it could be 40 or 30. And I mean, it's crazy. But the vehicles work just fine. We snuck over there, tactically acquired a few.
It's the oldest Marine Corps tradition. We don't have it. We steal it from the Army.
So we took a couple of them, spray painted our own logos on them, and any identifying information, then we just took them, do something about it. We're going to use them because we need them to save people and help people and do our job. And so on this particular mission, what we do when we have long convoys is we have a vehicle that goes up in the front, the lead vehicle. That one does not have any armor on it. We actually welded our own armor to a soft skin Humvee, and we put sandbags on the floorboards. It's kind of a joke. I mean, we know that if we were to get hit by small arms fire or whatever, it's not really going to help. It's more of a peace of mind, maybe. War is hell. You just do it. And I wanted to go on this mission. I actually wasn't supposed to be on this mission. I wasn't supposed to even be in the seat that I was in. I had gone out on a run the night before. They didn't want us and a couple other Marines to go because we were probably going to be tired and they didn't want us to go. One of the Marines that was supposed to go in this lead vehicle knew that we were going to go through a dangerous area. He didn't want to go. You could say that he might have been scared to go. That's fine. I don't hold any grudges against him. Again, war is hell. He was a no-show from what I was told, that he told his leadership that he was sick sick and couldn't go on the run. They were going to put the vehicle, they wanted another Marine to go, but that Marine had also been on that the night before, was tired, he didn't want to go. So I volunteered to go. I wanted to go. This is going to be the lead vehicle. They usually get to see all the action, all the cool stuff, and I would get to be in this vehicle that we call the suicide truck because there's really no armor on. If you get hit, chances are you're not going to make it. I volunteered to go. Well, when I volunteered to go, the vehicle commander, we just called him Corporal J, he had a really weird last name. He didn't want me to drive because he knew I'd gone on the night before. I'd probably be tired and wouldn't want to drove off the side of the road and hit a mine. That's where they put the mines, on the side of the roads. So he took the driver's seat and put me in the vehicle commander seat. So now I'm in a seat that 3 other people were supposed to sit in just by chance. And now I'm in this seat. Vehicle commander's usually out front, right front seat. We're going down the road. We're almost close to where we were going to, this place called Korean Village near the Syrian border. We were on protecting a supply convoy that was taking equipment, bullets, beans, band-aids to another unit. Our job was just to protect the convoy. We saw a insurgent try to plant a bomb or an IED. We scared him off. Mission accomplished. He wasn't able to plant the bomb. Get in his little Isuzu or Toyota truck and drove off, and those things flock compared to what the speeds we're at. Apparently, he went to the next bridge, planted the bomb next to a guardrail, and it was remote detonated, so he went off and was just watching from a distance. I mean, we're hunted out there. That's just how it is. And with rules of engagement, you would see guys staring at you through binoculars on hills, and you can't do anything because they're not shooting at you. But you know that they're scoping you out. They're seeing your tactics, how fast you're going, how many vehicles have guns on them, is this a good target? When we came up on this bridge, we didn't check it like we normally do. I don't know why. And we got hit. I heard the explosion, the loudest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I've been blown up a few times before that, but this one was stupid loud. I felt the pressure. I felt my head fly back, felt it come back forward. And then I remember hearing all the guys screaming. And then I remember touching my face, and I could feel that my hand was wet. I didn't know what it was. I felt no pain. I don't remember feeling any pain. Just how amazing the human brain is to shut off something like that. When you go through something so traumatic. About a week or 2 later, I woke up in Bethesda, Maryland, National Naval Hospital, in a hospital bed. That's my story.
Steve, thanks for being here. Thanks for your service. Let's talk about something a little lighter. We've been hitting some really high, hard points. You had the privilege of receiving some of the first ACOGs, the first RCOs that we call them, the Rifle Combat Optic in the Marine Corps. Really, really cool device. The Marine Corps was using iron sights to shoot from the 500-yard line for a very, very long time. Very complicated thing to do, but we get it done. What was it like getting those things for the first time and learning that it's not as simple as just place on the top of your rifle and start shooting?
Yeah, so we thought it was cool. It was like, look at us, we're getting these special forces looking things. Because I'd never, we never use it. You're going to have a scope as a designated marksman or a sniper or something like that. We never seen anything, or at least I'd never seen anything like it. Growing up, I didn't come from the gun world. I didn't know anything about it. I learned everything I knew about guns and rifles and all that through the Marine Corps. We came back from a mission, and the armorer wanted all of our rifles, and no big deal, just give it to him. The next thing we know, we all have ACOGs on top of our rifles. So we're like, cool. Now we don't have to use, because I think it was like a 3 times magnification. So now we didn't really have to use our binoculars that weren't issued to us. If you had one, it's because you bought it from Dick's or whatever before you came. I don't even know if Dick's was around back then. But now we have these cool ACOGs. On this one mission, this tractor hauling some type of bed behind it. It's covered. And we're like, this isn't good. And it's coming towards our intersection that we're guarding. We shoot the flares, trying to get them to stop or turn around. It's not stopping. It's still coming. We start shooting some more flares. Still coming. We start shooting warning shots. Still coming. Hey, shoot the engine block. Now it's time to get a little bit more serious. I'm aiming at the engine block and we're shooting. Guy's still coming. And I still can't see at the distance if it's actually hitting the engine block or not. Luckily, it wasn't shot. It was just a guy just driving his tractor on the road. I don't know. Again, all the rounds that we were shooting were hitting the sods. And that is not where we were aiming. Not one bit where we were aiming. When we go back on base, our ACOGs were not zeroed in. They were not sighted. Could you imagine if we actually needed it? We were, getting attacked and we're shooting back at insurgents, and they look at us like these guys are shooting at us, but they're not.
It hurts your pride as a Marine too. You're like, I do not shoot this back. Why is that round going over there? Steve, earlier we were talking about the insurgency that you faced up against in Iraq and how it felt like you were being hunted by ghosts. Let's dive in a little bit about how hard it was fighting an enemy with the guerrilla tactics that they were using. They were afraid. They were scared. They couldn't fight us face to face, so they started planting IEDs. They started using the civilians, and that's what the war in Afghanistan is even to this day, is a terrifying guerrilla tactics.
Even if we were fighting a bigger army, that's probably what we would do too. I mean, it's a good tactic to use against a superior force. And so when we would go out and protect the roads, we would take fire from random places or a couple buildings. We didn't want to shoot back unless we knew for sure that there was no civilians in there. And sometimes you don't know. And so if you're driving down the road and you're taking fire from a certain building, well, more than likely we'll probably start shooting back at that building, and you really want to hope that there was nobody in there that probably didn't deserve what they got. And so that's what the enemy would do, and they still use it now. They're cowards. They would take over civilian neighborhoods, and they would use that as their place, so that's where they were going to shoot from. And that's just guerrilla warfare tactics, and it's a really difficult way to attack your enemy. A lot of the times also the insurgents would dress in women's clothes, and they would wear the burqas, and so you couldn't tell. So you'd think that there's a woman or just a regular civilian, and they might have an IED on them, or a suicide vest, explosive vest, or would have a rifle under the burqa, and hope that you had enough time to where if you saw that they were a threat, that you were able to take them out. Stuff like that would happen all the time. It's a terrible way of having to fight a war, but we adapt and overcome, and that's what we had to do.
Steve, thanks so much for being here in the studio with me today. After all the work you've already done in the community here in South Carolina with Hidden Wounds, you've actually just taken on a board position at an even bigger nonprofit helping vets, Folds of Honor, a huge national organization helping Gold Star families, Purple Heart recipients, and people injured in combat. Tell us all about it.
I've always been a fan of this organization. They started by a veteran. What they do, so the mission of Folds of Honor is to provide educational scholarships to spouses of children of America's fallen, so Gold Star families, and disabled vets. I was just always impressed by them, that they started something that was a grassroots. I'm a big fan of that. They just blew up. I mean, it's a great mission. The logo is awesome. People that are part of it are great. All they want to do is help out those who have given the ultimate sacrifice and provide something for their families through education, to know that the sacrifices that they made were not in vain. I had always asked them and just continually emailed their national team, hey, when are you going to come to South Carolina? Whatever you need me to do, I'll stand out in front of Walmart and give out pamphlets. I mean, I'll do the grunt work. I just wanted to help out and be a part of it. That's my coping mechanism, is being a part of something bigger than myself, just like in the military. So it just kind of continued on, and just wanted to help. Finally, I got an email. You wanted to help so bad. If you want to join, we're looking for a board member because we're starting a chapter in South Carolina. So I was like, hell yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to do, and I have nonprofit executive experience. I'd love to help out. And so we've had this board going on now, different members from across the state who are a part of it. Our chairman is out of Greenville, South Carolina. We travel the state, share the mission of Folds of Honor. Our intent is all the money that we raise is help keep it here local, so that the veterans that we serve or the families that we serve are getting the money that we've raised here in South Carolina. So Folds of Honor is a huge believer in golf tournaments and raising money doing that. There's a lot of money in that. We've been doing a lot of tournaments, a lot of awareness. We want people to know, hey, we're here. If you fit the qualifications of what they do, you can ask for or apply for a scholarship. So if you're a Purple Heart recipient, if you're a Gold Star family, you can go on to Folds of Honor and apply for a scholarship. And these scholarships will pay for you or your children to go to private school. It used to just be for college, but now they've extended it to private school for your kids, or to help you with continuing education to go to college. It's a small thank you to a huge sacrifice. Providing you a college degree is not going to bring anybody back, but it's just it's a small way of being able to say thank you in a different way, a way where you can continue to better yourself. And so I've always just loved that mission. Being a part of it is an honor. I love the guys that I'm serving with. I love being able to travel the state and share with them, what this mission is, what we're doing, what we're raising money for, on top of, some of the other things that I'm already doing.
Steve, thanks so much for being on. All this stuff we've been talking about, Hidden Wounds, Folds of Honor, great nonprofit organizations that you've been working for or helped start. What's next, man? You've done so much already. It seems like there's no end in sight. What's next for you?
I have a son. He's just turned 3 years old, and that's been my new mission. I love being a dad. What I tell people is the best, worst thing ever. I was recruited by a financial planning organization. There's never something that I thought that I would do. My wife works. I stayed home with my son the first year that he was born, so because daycare costs are just insane. We didn't want to work just to pay for daycare, which a lot of Americans nowadays do. So I told her, I was like, well, I'll stay home. Once he was able to go to school, we put him in 2K program. She was like, well, now I want to stay home and you go work. In doing that, it kind of took away some of the time that I was putting into nonprofit work, which is okay. I mean, I needed to get back, but there's not a lot of money in the nonprofit field, as there shouldn't be. You're doing it as a nonprofit. You want to help people. And so I wanted to find something that I could still help people. And I know that one of the areas for veterans that need help, I knew that a lot of areas was just financial planning. You get out of the military and a lot of people just don't have their benefits figured out, or some of their investments figured out, or they didn't know how to save money correctly. Now I have an opportunity, and I work with an excellent, top-notch company called Northwestern Mutual. I get to meet new people every day and help them with whatever needs they might have. And it fell into what I already do and continuing to want to help people. That was one of the first things that they asked me was like, how do you deal with rejection? I was like, I've been in the nonprofit world for 10 years. I'm good at sitting down and helping you figure out what are some of the things that you were just scared or put off, didn't want to talk about, that now is the time to get stuff done. And I've just been now provided with great tools to help them accomplish their future goals.
Thanks for joining us in our Soldier Salute, presented by Little Pig's Barbecue, serving Columbia since 1963 with that bodacious buffet. And Palmetto State Armory, American made for life. And Franklin Equipment, rent, buy, rely. And Atkins Law Firm Workers' Comp Attorneys. Who you hire matters.